Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Captain Lisa Wong, and I will be your narrator for today's ceremony. Today, the Air Force honors Colonel Scott Heyler and his family as he retires from the Air Force after more than 26 years of distinguished military service. The presiding official for today's ceremony is Lieutenant General J.B. Silveria, Superintendent of the United States Air Force Academy. As a reminder, please turn off or silence all electronic devices. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for honors, the singing of our national anthem by Jessica Heyler, and the invocation by Pastor Holt. Please play the ruffles and flourishes.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Pastor Holt will now provide the invocation.
Let us pray. Father God, we just bless you and we praise you so much for the Heyler family and your strength in their life through all these years. God, thank you so much for Scott. We bless him in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. We thank you for him, and we praise you, Lord, that through the power of your Holy Spirit, he's been able to love his wife, Pam, through many highs and lows. Thank you, Lord, for the family and for the boys and for this beautiful young woman who just sang the national anthem and for him being a dad to them. We bless that, Lord. And Lord, I'm reminded Winston Churchill, who said, "Never was so much owed by so many, by so few, to the RAF pilots during the Battle of Britain." And I just thank you for Scott serving our country. I thank you, Lord, that he is a warrior and a worshiper. And I just thank you that his warrior side of him flows out of the worshiper of you that's in him. So we pray, Lord, that this service would be honoring to you, a blessing to you, and you'd receive all the glory. In your name we pray. Amen.
Jessica, for the wonderful rendition of the national anthem. Thank you, Pastor Holt, for the invocation. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Before we begin today's ceremony, I would like to take a moment to welcome our honored guests. Please hold your applause until all have been announced. We are pleased to have with us today Colonel Heyler's family, including Colonel Heyler's wife, Pam, Colonel Heyler's son, Benjamin, Colonel Heyler's son, Cody, Colonel Heyler's daughter, Jessica, Colonel Heyler's father and mother, Pete and Gingy, Colonel Heyler's brother, Doug. With us virtually from Georgia is Colonel Heyler's mother-in-law, Irene Clark. Other distinguished guests with us today include Senator Nancy Todd, Colorado General Assembly, Brigadier General Linnell Latendra, the Dean of the Faculty. Representing the Commandant of Cadets is the Vice Commandant, Colonel Clarence Lukes, Miss Jennifer Block, Executive Director of Athletics, Chief Master Sergeant Sean Milligan, Chief of the Dean of the Faculty, Lieutenant General Retired Christopher Miller, Brigadier General Retired Hans Mew, Brigadier General Retired Rita Jordan, Mr. Kyle Hibble, President and Chief Executive Officer of El Pomar Foundation, Colonel Retired Chuck Arnold, Colorado Springs Chamber. To all other senior leaders of the United States Air Force Academy and to the many friends and family members who have traveled here today, thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce the presiding officer for today's ceremony, Lieutenant General Jay Silveria, Superintendent of the United States Air Force Academy. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming General Silveria.
Some familiar faces, some people that we don't get to see all the time that are friends of the Air Force Academy, friends of the faculty, but at this point it's becoming that we're seeing familiar face masks, right, that we get to see. And as you're all spaced out, we've done so many of these events, and I do like to mention that we've done so many of these events like this where we've had to spread out and mask and et cetera and reduce our numbers, that it's actually okay that we think this is odd. You know, it's actually okay that we acknowledge that this is kind of odd. But I also point that out because just because it's odd and just because we're not as close to the people that we want to be close to or that we're hiding behind a mask, it doesn't make it any less important. It doesn't make it any less important for the Air Force Academy, for the faculty, to me, and as a senior representative for the United States Air Force. And it also doesn't make it any less important for the Heyler family and for Scott. So thank you all. Thank you all for being here. Everybody was introduced, but there's also some people that I just want to acknowledge again. It's Pam, Ben, Cody, Jessica. Jessica, that was awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Well, and Ben and I were just talking. He's on his way to Grand Canyon to start this fall. to start school. And if you're in the higher ed business, the moment you hear somebody who's going to another school, you start grilling them about, are you going and how are you starting and are you going to start and come back and all of that, because we're all trying to figure it out. So good luck. Call me when you know the solutions there at Grand Canyon, because the dean and I are working it hard. So let us know. Cody, nice to see you. And Jessica, just let us know if you want some admissions information afterwards from the academy. We'll get you that. It's also a pleasure to meet to Pete and Gingy Heyler from Montana. So nice to see you. Pete and I had actually been exchanging some emails a little while ago. So it's so good to meet you. It's really remarkable when you stand at the end of a career that Scott's had, I'm going to hit some career highlights, because you often wonder at the backside of a career like this that how did we get here? What got us to this point to be a senior officer as accomplished as Scott is, and to done all of the things that he's done. I think the good news, the spoiler on the end of the story, is that Scott's not going anywhere. And so the great news is that he's still going to be part of the Air Force Academy. Troy's pretty excited. Great news, he's going to be still part of the Air Force Academy and still part of doing something that he certainly is good at and enjoys and loves, and has shown a propensity to really make a difference in shaping and developing the lives of young men and women, developing them into officers for the Air and Space Force. So there is a good ending. So there is a good ending here. But let's think about how that started as an officer in the Air Force. And I think for Scott, his first assignment, by the way, was in Florida at MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa. So I'll put it in terms that Scott started at sea level, and he's worked his way up to 7,258 feet, from a lieutenant to a colonel along the way. But as a personnelist, he started out at MacDill Air Force Base in all of the junior officer positions that you would expect a personnelist to do, as a section commander and customer support and an executive officer for a senior officer, etc. Same thing at Ramstein Air Force Base, Air Base after that. All of the things that you would want a junior officer to do in the personnel business, as well as protocol and other elements within mission support. But I put those together because the body of work as a junior officer is really what sets up someone in the rest of their career. And Scott, just pretty much nailed that. Because after that, he was selected for a highly competitive program, the Air Force intern program, to work at the Pentagon. That's the kind of program that very few of us can ever compete for and ever get in, which I certainly couldn't, and I didn't get in. But those are the officers that become our leaders and become a lot of our thinkers, and that's what really set up Scott in a lot of ways. And from there, he get off to Kirtland Air Force Base, where he ran the military personnel flight. And if you're ever wondering, if you don't know much about the United States military or the United States Air Force, if you don't know much about it, if you ever want to find the kitchen, right? The kitchen where everything is going on, right? Where everybody wants the milk and everybody wants it right now. If you ever want to find that, you find yourself in the military personnel flight. It's the same thing at the Air Force Academy or at Peterson and at Kirtland where Scott was. That's where it's all happening to all of the lives of all of the airmen, and it has to be done right. So with that kind of a background, it's important for Scott at that point to get some headquarters experience that all of us love. That it's that time. But at Langley Air Force Base in the headquarters to take on some of the higher level policy positions and personnel for Air Combat Command at Langley Air Force Base. And then once again, Scott shows that he was accepted for all of those competitive programs that the rest of us can't get into. And one of those is the AOC program here at the Air Force Academy, which is highly selective. So Scott was the AOC of Cadet Squadron 29, And at this point, Jessica was born. And so while Ben and Cody were at Kirtland Air Force Base, so now Team Heyler is fully constituted at this point at that Air Force Academy sign. But also selected in 2008 as the Outstanding Academy Educator, which really shows the quality that Scott's really built up in his career. I think there's a great story at this point because Scott goes off to be to the Pentagon to run personnel, to run general officer assignments. And complete truth in advertising as I'm doing Scott's retirement. I was promoted to general officer one of the years that Scott was at general officer promotions. I don't know if there's a connection, but I just wanted to make sure that's out. You know, I don't want to hide that point. But the general officers are very needy people, and to deal with them as a personnelist, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. They're very, very needy people. But there's only a few hundred of them, and how they're managed and how they're run for the United States Air Force is hugely important to the entire organization. So, but at that point, it was time for Scott to really advance he's ready to teach and advance in his studies, and went off to get his PhD at Auburn in Alabama, which everybody tells me. How Scott managed to get his PhD in under 3 years, which is remarkable. And I know the dean uses that, tells everybody about, hey, Scott did it in under 3 years, so get yourself in gear and catch up. So, but no small feat. And then here at the academy, as the deputy department head in the management department. There's also a deployment in there. A lot of us are asked to head off to places around the country to support a lot of the joint actions that are going on. And Scott went to Bagram Air Base, which happened to be at the same time I was at Al Udeid as the deputy commander there. My first real connection with Scott was that when we had a very tough problem that we needed to solve for the organization, that frankly, that we had been putting up with for a number of years, and we needed to reorganize. And any large organization, when you say that you need to reorganize, a lot of people just run in different directions, and they don't want to change, and they're resistant to change. But Scott was part of a team that reorganized our Center for Character and Leadership, which was so vital to be an integrative element. And just watching him lead me and guide me and help me get through those decisions was certainly I owe you a lot of thanks for that work, but also the Academy for the next decade is going to owe you thanks for that work, which was really brought in his AOC experience, it brought in his experience at the Air Force Academy, and then it brought in his expertise in your research, and so that was really a pleasure to watch. And then right now, as the head of the Department of Management, which is to lead the faculty, which has its own challenges, but to continue to integrate all of the elements of the academy from that position. But he never lost the fact that he was also the core personnelist and continues to do work for the Air Force in the developmental team, which manages the careers of a lot of personnel officers. So I think what you can get there is a story of someone of outstanding service, of a scholar, of when called on, he served, and when asked to do the hard jobs and in the hard locations, other than Tampa where he started, when called on, he served. And I think that's such a remarkable testament to your career, Scott. So I'm here as your boss, as the superintendent, but I'm also here as the senior representative of the Department of Defense, as a three-star general. And in that role, I think it's most important that I truly just thank you for your service, because your service to our nation is nothing short of exemplary. Thank you very much. So if you'll join me up here, we'll make this official.
General Silveria will now present the Legion of Merit to Colonel Heyler.
Publish the order.
Colonel Scott G. Heyler distinguished himself by exceptionally meritorious conduct in the performance of outstanding service to the United States in various assignments culminating as head, Department of Management, Dean of the Faculty, United States Air Force Academy, from 16 July 2014 to 30 September 2020. During this period, his superior leadership and unparalleled management skills guarantee that the Department of Management remained the Air Force's renowned center of management, education, and expertise. Additionally, Colonel Heyler created the management major architecture framework that integrated academic courses into a systems-level perspective, as well as preparing for the department's reaccreditation visit in 2021. By doing this, Colonel Heyler successfully postured the department's program as one of the only undergraduate management programs in the country to be recognized and accredited. Finally, Colonel Heyler was a founding member of the Doctorate of Philosophy Talent Management Team that established a new Air Force-wide process for the development and utilization of doctors of philosophy across the Air Force. The singularly distinctive accomplishments of Colonel Heyler culminate a distinguished career in the service of his country and reflect great credit upon himself and the United States Air Force.
Congratulations. Thank you, sir.
We will now present the certificate.
I said odd. I said odd.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing as Lieutenant General Silveria will now retire Colonel Heyler.
Publish the order.
Attention to orders. Department of the Air Force, Special Order Number Alpha Lima 001035, dated 19 September 2019. By order of the Secretary of the Air Force, Colonel Scott G. Heyler is retired from the United States Air Force in the grade of Colonel, effective 1 October 2020, after more than 26 years of faithful and honorable duty. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Colonel Heyler received a certificate of appreciation from the President of the United States. The certificate reads, I extend to you my personal thanks and the sincere appreciation of our grateful nation for your contribution of honorable service to our country. You have helped maintain the security of the nation during a critical time in its history with a devotion to duty and a spirit of sacrifice in keeping with the proud traditions of military service. I trust that in the coming years, you will maintain an active interest in the armed forces and the purpose for which you have served. Those who follow in your footsteps will draw inspiration from your commitment, dedication, and sacrifices made to ensure the protection of our American freedoms. My best wishes to you for happiness and success in the future. Signed, Donald J. Trump, Commander-in-Chief. We will now do the Certificate of Appreciation for the Armed Forces of the United States of America, which honors Colonel Heyler's 26 years of dedicated service. It reads, to all who shall see these presents, greetings. This is to certify that Colonel Scott G. Heyler, having served faithfully and honorably, was retired from the United States Air Force on the first day of October, 2020. Colonel Heyler will now present his wife, Mrs. Pamela Heyler, sons Benjamin and Cody, and daughter Jessica, with certificates of appreciation for their many years of support. Mrs. Heyler, Benjamin, Cody, Jessica, please join Colonel Heyler and Lieutenant General Silveria on stage.
Yes, will do. Yeah.
In grateful appreciation, the United States Air Force presents this certificate of recognition to Pamela C. Heyler for the commitment and numerous contributions that made positive impacts to the nation's defense. Thank you for the support which gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service.
We'll take it back. I'm going to take it back. Yeah. And then can you switch with the kids? They've each got. You guys want? All three of you.
This is to certify that Benjamin C. Heyler, Cody J. Heyler, and Jessica L. Heyler, on the occasion of the retirement of their father from active duty with the United States Air Force, have earned grateful appreciation for their flexibility and sacrifices. Their support and understanding helped to make possible their father's lasting contribution to the nation. Signed, Linnell A. Latendra, Brigadier General, United States Air Force, Dean of the Faculty.
Nice job, buddy. Good job, kiddo. Let me teach you. All right, yeah, good. You stay.
In accordance with Air Force Instruction 36-2903, Dress and Personal Appearance of Air Force Personnel, retirees may continue to wear the Air Force uniform, including the dress uniforms with the Air Force retiree pin properly affixed to the lapel. Mrs. Heyler will now place the retirement pin on Colonel Heyler's left lapel.
The right side or the left side? Anybody know?
Left side.
Left side.
Your left
All right.
side.
I've never done this before.
Left side, yeah.
Now you know, sir.
Thank you, General Silveria, Colonel, and Mrs. Heyler and family. Please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy a special presentation highlighting Heyler's 26 years of service.
Woke up this morning, rolled out of bed. My favorite song's playing inside my head. I go out on the freeway, windows down. Don't know where I'm going, but it's good to move around. And days like this should never end. Every day should feel this good, feel this good. Every day should feel this good, feel this good. Up in the mountains, down by the bay, Charleston, Memphis, seaside to LA. I take all my troubles off with my shoes. I must be dreaming, it's perfect, me and you. And days like this should never end. Every day should feel this good, feel this good. Every day should feel this good, feel this good. And when I go to sleep tonight, before I even close my eyes, I wish upon a star so high that every day could be like this. The sun is shining and so are you. Feel so alive and everything's brand new. Yeah, come lay down beside me under the stars. We're always right at home wherever we are. And days like this should never end. Every day should feel this good, feel this good. Every day should feel this good, feel this good. Every day should. I never wanna close my eyes. Every day should. counting the ways to where you are. I'm 22 for a moment, and she feels better than ever, and we're on fire, making our way back from Mars. 15, there's still time for you, time to buy and time to lose. 15, there's never a wish better than this, when you only got 100 years to live. I'm 33 for a moment, I'm still the man, but you see I'm there, a kid on the way, babe, a family on my mind. I'm 45 for a moment, the sea is high and I'm heading through war crosses, chasing the years of my life. 15, there's still time for you, time to buy and time to lose yourself within a morning star. 15, I'm alright with you. 15, there's never a wish better than this, when you only got 100 years to live. Half time goes by, suddenly you're wise, another blink of an eye. 67 is gone, the sun is getting high, we're moving on. I'm 99 for a moment, I'm dying for just another moment, and I'm just dreaming, counting the ways to where you are. 15, there's still time for you. 22, I feel her too. 33, you're on your way. Every day's a new day. Got 100 years to live.
Now I invite Brigadier General Linnell Latendra, the Dean of the Faculty, and Colonel Troy Harding, Head, Department of Management, to come up for a special presentation to Colonel Heyler.
God. When thinking about just how much we should embarrass you today, I decided, and what is apt to describe you, settled on a good neighbor. Because as I thought about it, on bookends, we've been good neighbors for about 28 years. So you see, Scott was in Rebel 11, over in Squadron 11, and he was right next door to Troy and I, because we were in 12. And then at the end of our career, Scott and I were department heads, and there was a secret passage between management and law, except it only locked from his side. So he could come in any time, and I had to go around in order to get to him. But you've been a good neighbor. And when I think about what makes a good neighbor, good neighbors are dependable. right? You can loan them something and they return it. And Scott is about one of the most dependable people I know. You can go in on any bad day and sit down and he'll make time for you. Scott's also a good neighbor because he has character. You heard the superintendent talk about how many ways Scott has impacted our institution with respect to character. As an AOC, as an instructor, reorganizing CCLD. Scott exudes character. And you always want a neighbor who has good character because you can loan him your key and you know they won't throw a major party in your house when you're gone on vacation and they'll water your plants. But Scott's also a good teacher. I like neighbors who are good teachers because they not only teach you, but they teach your kids, right? You know, when your kid does something wrong, they're willing to stand up and say, hey, you might want to do something different. And lastly, Scott's a good neighbor because he's a great leader. And we have seen that time and time again throughout your career, and especially at this institution. And while I do not wish you to lead your HOA, because I don't want that to put that on anyone as a good neighbor, you certainly embody that character and leadership that we have come to know and love. The great thing about you being a good neighbor is that you're not moving. And that while you're going to be taking off this uniform, you're still going to be a wonderful neighbor to all of us, to our management department, to our AOCs, and we just could not be more proud of you and all that you've done for our institution. So thanks so much, Scott. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Troy to wheel out the exciting.
Well, I'm glad that the dean got to talk after the presentation there because it's not my family and it's not my career, and I already felt like somebody was cutting onions in here, so I'm glad I got a little chance to compose myself. That was extremely well done. And I also enjoyed the opportunity to see the red Volvo when it was new, as opposed to when it was 24 years old. So it held up pretty well right until the very end there, so that's great. When I was asked to be the vice dean of the faculty by General Armacost, the dean at the time, I was not really in a position to lay down conditions. But I did say, well, sir, if you could please, Scott was scheduled to head over to the Center for Character and Leadership Development in order to pay back his PhD, because a little known fact, that was actually a dual sponsored PhD from CCLD and from the management department. And he had done some great service with us and was scheduled to head to CCLD. And I said, boss, it would make it a lot more palatable and really set my mind at ease if we could keep Scott in the department and have him run it while I was gone. And he said, that's a great idea, I'll make that happen. And that was so great for a number of reasons. First of all, Scott and I share a very common vision of what the Department of Management can be and should be. So I knew that the department would be in great hands from the very beginning. Except for the time when he was in Bagram, just about every important decision that I had to make, I ran through him first, because his judgment and his character were such that I knew I couldn't go wrong by getting that opinion. And we, like I said, we see things so similarly that it would be a fairly seamless transition. But it allowed me to be a more effective vice dean, too, because I didn't have to worry about what was going on in DFM while I was gone. When I handed over the keys to him, I said, hey, man, it's all yours. There is nothing you can do that I can't undo when I get back, with the exception of civilian hiring, because those are forever. And little did I know, my final civilian hire to fill the department's rosters would actually be Dr. Scott Heyler. So I feel like I won the lottery on a number of ways here. So Scott, I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for your service to the department, to the nation, and I am just pleased as punch we'll have you back. Although, as I was talking with your dad, you lose the window office, sorry, and the parking spot. But it's great to have you back, and I'm looking forward to the next chapter of your career with the department. So with that, I'd like to present a little gift from the department here. It's really heavy, that's why we're not actually, picking it up and exchanging. But as I do the great unveil, and it's a slab of the terrazzo block that perhaps you trod upon when you were running the strips as a class of '94. Yeah, well, the whole recognition thing, I'm still a little bitter about that. And it has a quote on it from Colonel and retired General Joshua Chamberlain, who, if you don't know, he was the commander of the 20th Maine during the Battle of Gettysburg. And I think that this is an important quote by an important individual and fitting for Scott for a number of reasons. During the Battle of Gettysburg on the second day, Little Round Top was a key position on the left flank of the Union line that was left by mistake unoccupied. And Colonel Chamberlain recognized immediately that if the Confederates were to take that position, they could put enfilading fire down on the entire length of the Union line. So the 20th Maine, he led there and held off repeated Confederate advances until help arrived at great cost to the regiment and to himself. So that's Scott. He's the guy who recognizes what needs to be done and goes and does it. And the quote reads, "The inspiration of a noble cause enables men to do things they did not dream themselves capable of before." And Colonel Chamberlain, again, retired as a general and was later the president of Bowdoin College. So a warrior, a scholar, and a man of faith like Scott. So congratulations on a fantastic career, Scott. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next, Dr. Steve Green, Deputy Department Head of Management. Please come up for a few words.
General Latendra and Colonel Harding captured what a great department head Scott was. But I just was asked on behalf of the entire department to describe a little bit about what a great leader he was. And there's an old military saying that conflict builds leadership, but crisis defines it. And Scott, the way you handle this COVID crisis will be our definition of leadership from years to come. Seeing your face day after day on our team's meeting, in uniform, in the office, and the way you checked on each and every one of us was inspiring. And literally, you were our calm port in the storm. And more importantly, though, your strength and confidence gave us strength and confidence to get through. And we are indebted. And as a token of our appreciation of your leadership during this little period, it's a little steering wheel. And it says, "Colonel Scott Heyler, DFM Department Head, thank you for guiding us through the storm, the great COVID pandemic of 2020. So.
Thank you, Dr. Green, for those words.
Mic back on? Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to present to you Colonel Scott Heyler, United States Air Force, retired.
Thank you very much. So I'd like to start off with some thank yous. First of all, just to all of you, to every one of you. You have some personal connection to our lives. And we can't thank you enough for that support over the years and everything that you've done for me and for my family. So thank you, all of you. I won't be able to get to everyone. I'll get to some of you here later on, but we did want to just say a general thank you to every one of you for all of your care and support. I do want to start, though, by saying a quick thank you to Charles Lewis and Scott Mathis, who's up in the booth there, and Lola Bidet, and particularly Lisa Wong over there for putting all this together. I started out this process many months ago. Dr. Green actually came to me and said, "We got to get working on your retirement." And I was like, "That's months away." And he goes, "No, we got to get going." And he goes, "And I'm going to put Lisa Wong in charge because he doesn't like to do a whole lot of work himself, but he's really good at delegating." And I can tell you, he picked the right group of people. Lisa, you've been phenomenal, so thank you very much. And to the rest of you for all your work, we so appreciate it. I told him I was going to try to be low maintenance. And then I changed the date, the presiding official, and the location. and so I wasn't particularly low maintenance. I want to say thank you to Jessica for singing. That was fantastic. I first asked her and her eyes got real big, and then she sort of warmed up to the idea, and I think it was absolutely phenomenal, so thank you for that. Senator Todd, thank you so much for coming down. The Todds are family friends of ours. We've gotten to know them through their son Jeff, who actually runs the family camp that we go to every summer in Branson, Missouri, so we got to know him. Phenomenal young man. And then we've gotten to know the Todds. Terry is a retired Army colonel. And so it's great to have you guys here. Thank you so much. You honor us with your presence, so thank you for that. General Silveria, I was a little nervous that you were going to tell me to get out, since that's your kind of your tagline. But fortunately, you didn't tell me that, so I appreciate it. But in all seriousness, sir, I've watched you mostly from a distance as you've been the superintendent. We have gotten a few chances to interact. But I've just been so impressed with your leadership throughout your time as the superintendent, and particularly during the COVID pandemic over the last few months. As I told you in your office the other day, I've watched the decisions that you've made with no precedent, and you've listened to people and you've taken input, and it's just been phenomenal to watch, and I think you've made the best of an unbelievably bad situation, and I think we are all blessed to have had you as our leader for these last few years, and so thank you for that. Lieutenant General Miller, sir, thank you for being here. Really appreciate you coming out for this. You've been a great mentor of mine. It was always nice to know that we lived in the same building there at Bagram, although several years apart, but the wing commander's room was right down the hall from where I lived when I was at Bagram, and so we had a little bit of affinity there. But sir, I've always appreciated your leadership, even from when I used to see you come in to talk to Kit Jones in DPG all those years ago, and you were one of the less needy, I think, general officers that came into the office. So, but it's great to have you here, and for everything that you're doing for CCLD and for the Air Force Academy. It's fantastic. I want to say thank you to General Sharpie as well. I'm not sure if he's able to watch today. Lieutenant General Tom Sharpie was my boss when I worked in DPG. He was going to preside. He tried everything he could to get out here from Norfolk, and wasn't able to make it. But General Sharpie and his family have been huge supporters of ours. I credit him for helping me get the PhD slot that set me on the course to come back here. I actually was his son's academic advisor when Matt was here, so we've got a lot of connections. But Tom and Lori Sharpie have been phenomenal supporters, and so I really appreciate his leadership over the years.
So I was the second choice.
A little uncomfortable to have to go to the 3 Stars office and say, well, sir, my original presiding official fell through, but not a bad backup plan, sir, I have to say. And I did talk to General Latondra about it months ago and said, hey, if this happens to go crazy on us and everything turns upside down, I do want to ask General Silveria, so she can vouch for me on that, sir. General Latondra, ma'am, thank you for your leadership and your friendship over the past several years. I think you're the absolute right person for the right position right now, and I look forward to continue to working under your leadership. Brigadier General Mew and Brigadier General Jordan, thank you both for being here, both formal permanent professors, and I'll talk about each of you a little bit more later. So we'll come back to you. Troy, thank you so much for having the confidence in me to allow me to run your department for these last 2 years. It has been a true honor for me to be able to run the department, to finish up my career in that position, and I thank you for giving me that opportunity and for your continued leadership. I look forward to working with you and for you here in the future. Ms. Block from AD, thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate it. I don't know if Jen remembers this or not, but we were both volleyball players. She was much better than I was. She's a couple years ahead of me as a cadet. And so I used to see her out there doing crazy things, awesome things on the volleyball court while I was probably shagging balls for the men's team or something. But we've been around for a long time. We were AOCs at the same time, and so we've had a lot of connections. And I think just fantastic that you're back in AD and getting to contribute there. I think it's a perfect choice, and I'm so glad that you're back working here. Clarence Lukes was a 2 degree in my freshman squadron, so any of my military bearing you can credit to Clarence back in Viking 9. So Clarence, thanks so much. There was a little talk there for a while about me possibly being a vice commandant for a while, and then they said, "Oh, don't worry about it. We found this guy. We're bringing him up from Space Command," and I heard it was Clarence Lukes. You used to go by Klukes, didn't you? So I heard you were coming. I said, "That's fantastic, perfect choice." I think you're doing great stuff over there in CW. But thanks for being here. To my colleagues, to other department heads, I just want to say a quick thank you for allowing me to participate in the decisions that have moved DF forward over the last couple of years. They've welcomed me with open arms, and so I appreciate that welcome that they've given me. To our enlisted folks, Chief Milligan, thanks for being here. Chief Master Sergeant Retired Olson, who I got the pleasure to work with at Ramstein, and then somewhere in here is Retired Master Sergeant Heidi. Thank you so much, you all, for being here. I've worked with a lot of great NCOs over the years, and you guys are kind of the epitome of what I have looked for in my NCO leadership. So thank you to the three of you for being here and kind of representing all those NCOs I've had the chance to work with over the years. To our church family, Steve, thanks so much for doing the invocation. We love this church. Steve and Liz, Ryan and Mandy, and so many others in this church family have been phenomenal. Couldn't ask for a better church home, and what a great place to have this. So thank you so much to our church family. To the management department, some here, some watching online, what a fantastic department. My goodness, just an incredible group of men and women, military and civilian. And so it's a great place to work, so great that I just can't leave, and I want to come back and keep doing it. So just thank you to the department for all of your support over the last couple of years since I've been back. And thanks for everything that you do for our cadets. They're obviously the mission. They're the reason why we're here, and so thank you for that. All right, so that's kind of the list of thank yous. I've always been a big proponent of retirement ceremonies, not for the person themselves, right, but as a kind of a signal to the junior officers to say, hey, this is important stuff. When you serve, it means something, and so we recognize that service. And then I think more importantly is to recognize the family, right, because they're doing everything that we're doing. They're going along for the ride, whether they like it or not. And they're there, and then they don't get the same, they don't get the ribbons, and they don't get all these kinds of things and the recognition a lot of times. And so that's why this kind of a ceremony to me is so important. And so in that vein, I wanted to have Pam come up and just share a few words to give her an opportunity, since she's been serving alongside me for the past 26 years. And then I'll have a few more things just to close out. So.
Okay, I get very nervous. He asked me about 8 weeks ago if I wanted to say something, and those of you who know me, I always have something to say. I was like, nope, nothing. And then a couple nights ago, we had a prayer service, and I had something to say now. So anyhow, the first part, I just want to say to Scott, and I'm probably going to cry, that so I've said this to some of you, but I have often thought that Scott was born in a uniform, but I have seen his baby photos, and he wasn't. So, and that you have loved being in the Air Force from the time I met you between junior and senior year at the academy. And I just publicly want to say, what an amazing job you've done representing the Air Force as an officer with honor, integrity, and excellence. And you've also, of course, done a great job with our family. The second thing I wanted to say is, so Captain Wong, she asked me to go, through 26 years of photos, which I had no idea what a task that was, because photos have changed, just the scrapbooks, and it's all the negative. I mean, I didn't know how disorganized. I was organized before kids, and then with the first two, they got baby books, and then she's got a baby book in the works still, and then there's pictures all over the place and all these different places on the computer, and then the iPhone came, and then I'm very organized. So, but anyhow, doing that, and you did such a nice job. Thank you. So she had, I would send her like, here's 86 from this assignment. Good luck. Because I couldn't narrow it down. Anyhow, I was just reminded of all the amazing places we've lived, and especially the amazing people God has blessed us with during every assignment. And many of you are here today, and I just thank you for your love and support. And also, there's many who are just scattered all over the country, of course. And I also just wanted to say that I am so thankful that while Scott has loved serving our country, because he was serving, God provided a way for me to get to stay home with the kids and do what I felt called to do. So I'm very thankful.
That's a tough act to follow. So this is how I teach class. I will say that, and I've got two former cadets back there in the back. Nato and Garrett are here. It's awesome to see you guys. Usually there's more interaction and discussion. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to do that here today, which probably make it go a lot faster, which is good for all of you. But I hopefully want to teach you a little bit. This whole retirement thing, when the general announced me as Colonel retired, it just hits weird. It's a wild feeling. But I think one of the many gifts that I've developed, or that the Air Force has given me over 26 years, is the ability to teach. And as I think back, I didn't just start teaching when I became an AOC. I think I probably started teaching when I was an MPF commander, and I'd learned some things, and then started to try to teach those things to other people. And so I've been working on that craft for a while now. And so if you don't like my teaching, please don't talk to Colonel Harding, because I need this job. So I don't need him to pull that back from me. So if you don't like what I teach you today, keep it to yourself, or give me some feedback later. But I was out running on the Falcon Trail a few weeks ago, and all of a sudden I got this picture in my mind of bookends, right? Of books on a shelf, with bookends, one on either side. And to me, it was a really good analogy of my time in the Air Force. My time in the Air Force being one shelf on a bookshelf, right? I have the picture of this big bookshelf. And the bookends, they start and end a row of books. They keep them in place. They keep them organized. And so there are a lot of areas of my career where I can see things that have come full circle over 26 years. And there are people and experiences that have been, I think, the bookends of my career, that have been there at the beginning and have been there at the end. They've helped keep me in place. They've helped keep me organized, and they've kept me from falling over in a lot of cases. And so I just want to take you through a few of those. So I graduated high school in 1990, Newtown, Pennsylvania. So 30 years ago, the 6th of June. And now this year I've got a son graduating from Pine Creek High School and heading off to his next adventure. That's crazy to me, that I have a son who's old enough to graduate, and here it is, 30 years later. We were originally going to do this ceremony on the 29th of June, which was 30 years to the day that I showed up for basic training and got that basic training haircut, and then we had to move it, but it's close enough, right? My career started here in Colorado. Showed up here, again, like I said, on the 29th of June. And now it's ending here in Colorado. That, to me, is fitting. I love it here. I love this place. And so the opportunity to get to serve here several times has been fantastic. Brigadier General Mew and Sally were my sponsors when I was a cadet. I was at Arnold Hall. I jumped in the back of somebody's car on dually day out, and there was Colonel Mew at the time, the head of the chemistry department and the permanent professor. Man, did I hit the lottery with that. That was fantastic. sir, ma'am, you've been with me throughout. You see that he promoted me to colonel. You've been both of you, fantastic mentors to me. You've cared for our family. And so for me to get to finish my career as a department head, as you were, was a huge honor for me. And then, we're going to be sponsoring a cadet this year, a kid that's coming from Auburn that we were friends with when we were back there. And so just, again, things coming full circle. It really is just amazing. So thank you for everything that you all have done for us over the years. I started out as a management major. I declared management as soon as I possibly could because my Calc 2 experience was not fun. And so I wanted to get out of math classes as quickly as I possibly could. And management was a great road to that. So sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And I became a management major. And so, again, to finish my career as the management department head is just absolutely crazy to me. And a huge honor for me to be able to get to do that. I've been mentored by a lot of people, a lot of you in this room, but particularly people like Dr. Steve Green and Dr. Kurt Heppard who are watching online. Kurt was my advisor when I was a cadet. Greeno was my accounting professor when I was a cadet, and they have continued to mentor me through the years, even through my time as department head. If I needed help, I would make a beeline to those two offices to try to get some honest feedback and things from those two individuals. And so the fact that now I get to mentor others, again, is this idea of things coming full circle. Jim Dahlman was going to be here today. I'm not sure if he made it, but Jim was my AOC when I was a cadet. Now he's working in admissions. And so to get to be an AOC after seeing a good example like Jim Dahlman was just fantastic. JP and Stephanie Price were here. I know they had to head out at some point. Stephanie's still here. So Stephanie's my classmate. We were cadets together. JP was a year ahead of us. JP and I were a year apart in the intern program. We lived, I think, one street apart in D.C. And then to get to come back here and work on the OPT for CCLD with John Price and get to work on leader development and how do we do that correctly at the Air Force Academy. Just fantastic. The Price family, phenomenal servants to the Air Force for many, many years. And so, again, just things just keep coming back. They keep coming full circle. Let's see. Gary Smith is here. Sir, thank you for being here. Gary's my squadron commander when I was at Ramstein. Helped me get into the intern program. Funny story, he said, "Hey, Scott, I got this opportunity for you to go be the protocol officer for the wing." I said, "No, sir, I'm not interested." I said, "I don't want to do protocol. I don't know where the forks go. I don't know how to line the flags up." And he goes, "Didn't you tell me you want to go to the Air Force intern program?" I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "You're going to protocol." And the rest is, as they say, is history. So, sir, thank you. Also from Ramstein, Kobe and Nicole Zahn, friends of ours that now live in our neighborhood. We did fun trips all over Europe with them. Kyle Hibble is here, now an amazing leader here in Colorado Springs. We were captains together. He was a JAG. I was a personnel officer. We worked all kinds of issues together, and now we're both here in Colorado Springs. Just fantastic. Chief Olson, I mentioned already, was at Ramstein as well, working protocol, working in that protocol office. So she got stuck with me as her boss when Colonel Smith decided to send me over there. So sorry about that, Chief, but it all worked out. I'm very blessed to have some former cadets in the room from when I was an AOC. It is fantastic to get to see my former cadets grow up and become phenomenal officers. So Ross McKnight is here with his wife Danielle up from San Antonio, where he's doing phenomenal stuff down at the recruiting service. Now transferring over to ATC, I think, headquarters. Next to him there, you've got Brian and Stephanie Guyette. We're also cadets of mine, back 2008 grads. And Brian has now come back into the AOC Masters program. So to get to see a former cadet now become an AOC is just absolutely blowing my mind. But I'm watching, Brian, so I know the stuff you did as a cadet, so don't get carried away, all right? Cheryl Steiner, I think, was going to try to be here. I'm not sure if she made it. Oh, there she is, Cheryl. I couldn't see with the mask. So Cheryl's another 2008 grad. So she got out of the Air Force and is now doing phenomenal work, actually a part of the project to rebuild the chapel, working with the company up there, and now looking at options to get back in the reserves. So Cheryl, thanks for being here. And then 2010, Jessica Ullum, I think, was going to try to be here. I'm not sure if she made it or not. But another former cadet that's working at Schriever. And then taking pictures today, we have Nancy Chavez, who was a 2011 grad from CS 29. So again, just to watch your former students, your former cadets come back and do amazing things is just more than I could hope for, and then I'm also blessed to have former AOC colleagues here, guys and gals that were AOCs at the same time I was. So Alan Dayton, Amy, and their family drove out here from Omaha. We had a lot of good times together, going through the AOC Master's Program, and then consoling each other as our cadets made bad choices. So it's great to see Alan and Amy and their kids coming back, and it's fantastic. We got Dave Stanfield in the back with Tina, another AOC colleague of mine, who just moved over from being the U.S. Space Force. I'm sorry, Alan's the 55th MSG commander at Offutt there. So, doing fantastic stuff, continuing to lead in the Air Force. Dave was the U.S. Space Force A1, now moved over to be the Space Command J1. So he's doing amazing things in the personnel career field. And and then Michelle Johnson, another retired colonel, just came back. And is now going to be working in CCLD. Fantastic choice. Excited to get to work with Michelle again and do some more things with leader development. And then Jimmy Dobbs also went and got his PhD like Michelle and I did, and is now the prep school dean down there, just a few miles away from where we are. So for those of you that think that an Air Force Academy assignment is a way to kill your career, I can tell you that is an urban legend. There's no truth to it. There are phenomenal people who have been here, done amazing things, and then gone on and done even more amazing things. So it's pretty cool. I'm getting close, I promise. I was sponsored for my PhD by General Armacost, the previous dean, when he was the management department head, in conjunction with CCLD, and now to get to be selecting individuals to go off to their PhD programs, again, just blows my mind. So all that to say, what I see through all this is that life is all about relationships. Proverbs 27:9 says, "A sweet friendship refreshes the soul." And each one of you, like I said earlier, has played a role in our lives, has made an impact on us. And so those are the personal and professional relationships, and then there are the family relationships, which are the most important and the deepest. So I'm glad to have my brother Doug here from Chicago to see this and be here with us. And then my parents came down from Montana, and they're the ones that put me on a plane and sent me to Colorado 30 years ago, and then didn't hear from me until Dooley Day out when I called them from the Muse house to say, I don't know what the heck I got myself into, but this place is crazy, and they cut all my hair off. But no, my mom and dad have been so supportive to us throughout the years, come to see us in every place we've lived, and obviously raised me to be the person that I've become. So thank you, Mom and Dad, for that. My in-laws as well. My mother-in-law is watching from South Georgia. We lost my father-in-law a few years ago, but Frank and Irene were huge supporters of us throughout our career, whether it was coming to babysit or help us build a closet or who knows whatever project we needed done, or just hanging out with the kids and hanging out with us. The Clarks have been phenomenal to us, and we've even got Irene coming back out here in a couple weeks to watch the other kids while we take Benjamin off to school. So thank you to Frank and Irene for all their love and support over these many years. To my kids, man, talk about winning the lottery. These guys are amazing. So Benjamin, you heard, is going off to Grand Canyon University in the fall to study sports management. Cody is going to be a junior this fall. He's going to be playing soccer, hopefully playing basketball again. We'll see what happens. And he's done student council and a ton of other things at school. They've both been, fantastic students, as well as heavily involved in their classes, and just great friends and all those kinds of things. Jessica's going into 7th grade. You may not believe it. She looks like she's going into 10th or something, but she is an amazing individual. This is the first time she's ever really sung in public, so she did pretty well with that. She does crafts. She does dance. She does all those kinds of things, right? She's just involved everywhere. And so Pam and I have been very blessed with each one of our kids. And then there's my marriage. So we've been married for 25 years now. Pam's been with me for 27 of the 30 years that I've been wearing the uniform. I found her as quick as I could. I had to go back to Pennsylvania to find her. But once I found her, I got her locked up pretty quick. And when my first assignment came down, it wasn't to MacDill, sir. It was to Rapid City, South Dakota, Ellsworth. Through a weird set of circumstances and being a personnel officer and learning about networking, it ended up getting switched to MacDill. But before it got switched, Pam offered to move with her job to Rapid City, South Dakota. So I knew she loved me when she was willing to go to South Dakota. So that was good. But we've been through a lot. 9 assignments, 2 deployments, 1 year-long deployment while Benjamin was a freshman in high school. There's been a lot of ups and downs, like was mentioned earlier, but she stuck with me, and I haven't always made it easy. But Pam, thank you for your continued love and support, and I look forward to the next shelf on our bookshelf. All right, so what I'd like to do now real quickly, and then finally, and probably most importantly, through all of this, my relationship with God has been there. He has been there for me even before I knew he was there, and even before I knew that I needed him. And so he's been so good to us over the years, and so I am so grateful for that relationship that I've been able to have with God in heaven. So that's been a huge blessing to us, to all of us. So I'd like to present a few gifts, so if you guys don't mind coming back up on stage here again real quickly. And then we're almost done, I promise. Sorry, this is my last time as a colonel to get to talk, and I've heard nobody listens to you when you're a civilian, so... all right. So Jessica, there you go. Cody. And Benjamin. So Jessica, you guys can go ahead and start opening them. Jessica is obviously someone who likes to look beautiful, and it's not very hard for her to be able to do that, but so we got her a little something to help her continue to look beautiful. And then the boys are big Air Force football fans, and so they each got an authentic Air Force football helmet to put in their rooms. I don't know if they'll let you have the Air Force one at GCU, Benjamin, but... So Jessica got a pair of earrings. These are from both of us, by the way. You like them? So yeah, so these gifts are, hopefully they will remember their Air Force experience and how they've been a part of the Air Force family for all these many years. So. And then Pam, if you want to come over, I got yours over here. So Pam's been bugging me about this blank wall in our house for a couple of months now. She's got an idea of how she wants to cover this wall, but in the meantime, I'd already come up with an idea with how to cover the wall. So what we have here is watercolors of each of the states or countries that we've been in. So it's the outline of Germany here with Neuschwanstein Castle in it. And so we've got each of the 8 locations, and then under the table, I didn't put it out here, is the picture of Afghanistan. I didn't know if we wanted to hang that one or not. But we got that one just in case. But here's Colorado with the mountains, and let's see, Pennsylvania, where we met with Ben Franklin Bridge in Philadelphia, and so that's my plan for filling the wall. I hope it works for you. So
It's beautiful. I love it.
no. Yeah. Thanks, buddy. Thanks, kiddo. This is what our house looks like on their birthdays and Christmas too, sir. So that's how we do it in our house. Sorry about that. All right, so just a few more things to wrap up. So I tell cadets all the time, and the guys in the back have heard this, it doesn't matter what your AFSC is. It doesn't matter what your job is that you go into in the Air Force. The important thing is that you get to be an officer. And it doesn't matter whether you're a pilot, whether you're a personnel officer, or anything else. The fact is you get to be an officer, and that's a privilege and a responsibility. And so as I look back on 26 years, it's my hope that I've fulfilled that. I've enjoyed the privilege of being an officer, of getting to lead others. That has truly been the joy of my life. And I've tried to take that responsibility seriously and take good care of my people. And so if I've been able to do that, then I think I've been successful. I hope we've been able to make people's lives better by the work that we've done. And then a couple quotes. John C. Maxwell says, "The bookends of success are starting and finishing. Decisions help us start, and discipline helps us finish." My decision to come to the Air Force Academy in 1990 is one of the best decisions I've ever made. You can see that I have a passion for this place, for developing leaders of character for the nation. And so coming here to this place was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. And I hope I've shown the discipline throughout my time in the military to be able to finish and to do well. And then finally, you heard the quote earlier, "The inspiration of a noble cause enables men to do things they did not dream themselves capable of before." That was Joshua Chamberlain, as Troy mentioned. The Air Force and the Space Force and the development of leaders of character for our nation has been that noble cause for me. And I've had the opportunity to do things that I never would have dreamed of. And so I'm very thankful for the opportunities that the Air Force has given me. I'm thankful for the leadership that I have experienced throughout those many years. And I'm thankful for the relationships that we have been able to develop with each one of you and for everything that you have provided for us over these last 26 years. So with that, I say thank you all very much for your time. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you for your love and support. And I wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today, honoring Colonel Heyler and his family for their steadfast dedication to the nation. Please stand and follow along in the program as we sing the updated Air Force song and remain standing for the departure of the official party and the Heyler family. Please play the Air Force song. This concludes today's ceremony. Colonel Heyler and his family will be in the lobby. Feel free to congratulate them in a socially distanced manner while on your way out.